Hello and welcome yet again and this actually may surprise some of the viewers and perhaps even Isaac himself, but the first ever episode of Archived Memories since the last one that we recorded.
It doesn't surprise me that much because I have been stone drunk since the last one, so nothing surprises me anymore.
Oh, all right, interesting twist on the formula. I have once or twice when we've gone to do recordings uh, that happen to line up either near or across the weekend. Considered maybe I'll record with a couple beers in the system, see how that affects the dynamic. But have not actually done so yet. So
I am strictly a malt liquor man myself.
my man gets on the Colt 45 and then just starts shooting the shit about Netrunner almost instinctively.
Yeah, my drinking buddies are kind of sick of it, which is especially impressive considering that I don't have any.
Well, you could say that they're constructs of the console in your mind.
I don't know where that was going, but I don't think it
Cyberspace,
landed.
ice,
There we
hacking.
go. Yeah, we've made it relevant somehow.
You know, we're we're the best at what we do, and what we do isn't very nice to people who've never heard of Android Netrunner.
Like me. So, do you have any actual Netrunner related events to report to our audience?
No, I don't believe that I do. I guess not anything that I actually care about, so it's like, okay, the new like Nisei spoilers, I guess, came out, but I don't care about that. So
I don't know
why
what that is.
why would I recommend that anybody listening care about it either?
It
Um,
doesn't look like anything to me.
yeah. Um, but one of my recent things that I've done, and I may plan to continue doing is the Netrunner Reddit, which very seldomly sees very much traffic. Much to probably much to everyone's surprise.
Right.
Does occasionally have new players that'll make a thread and just ask some general questions or whatever. Um,
Right.
and I've gone in there and let them know that it's really imperative that you slot Zaibatsu loyalty into any deck,
True.
just because it's such
Imperative even.
yep, because it's just such a powerful card.
I don't remember whether we talked about this when we went over Zaibatsu loyalty, but the first time when I was just learning this game and it said prevent a card from being revealed, I assumed that you had to reveal cards before they were accessed, and so as long as I had money, I could just prevent the runner from accessing cards.
Oh yeah, so you actually thought that Zaibatsu loyalty was like
Oh,
fucking
I thought it was
nuts.
the best card in the game, but I was wrong, as it turns out.
Well, and as rarely as that happens.
Indeed.
All right, well, let's talk about some bullshit here.
All right, you want to start us off?
Yeah, here in front of us, and apologies to Steve. Usually, I hide the image and then unhide it when I go to start, but I didn't do it this time, so he's gonna have to edit it out and then fade it in. So, yeah, fuck you, Steve.
Got him.
We have restructured data pool, which is a NBN agenda with the initiative subtype. It is worth 3 points and has a 5 advancement cost to score. And it reads: one click, trace two. If successful, give the runner one tag. Um, Isaac,
Yeah.
why did this card not help in any capacity with the 5/3s are garbage allegations?
Well, it might be because this one is also garbage. Uh, okay. To be a little more serious, there's problems. One, it's a 5/3. Five threes. Hey, we've discussed 5/3s in a lot of contexts. They're really difficult to score. It's a full 2 turn investment. It's a lot of money, especially early on in the game's life cycle. It's 3 points to the runner if they happen to just like top tech you when you didn't draw any ice. There's so many downsides. And this one's upside is that you can have a crappy trace.
Yeah, you can have a crappy trace that will probably never happen.
Yep. So the time that this trace is really useful is in like an NBN Scorch deck, right? Suddenly you no longer need to draw your C source. You know what you could do instead is put more copies of Sea Source in your deck.
Yes. Um, and here's the problem, right? And we've talked about this, numerous times with numerous different cards. Is that I don't know if I've used this exact term specifically, but this card asks you to serve two masters.
Yeah.
Because if you're running a Scorch deck, you're probably not built to where you can reliably score a 5/3.
Right. NBN's not great at that in the first place. Like Tollbooth is a good piece of ice, but the big ice server is not really NBN's specialty.
Yeah, scoring remotes are not one of NBN's fortes, and that's the problem. Is that you're probably never going to be in a good position to score this card if you are, running a decent, NBN tag and bag, sort of setup. But then it's made further crappy by the fact that even if you do score it, uh, it's not very good at what it does because it's a Trace 2. Trace 2 sucks. Trace 2 is garbage.
Right. This in a stage of the game where runners are significantly wealthier than corporations are, it's giving you not very much leverage with your trace.
Yeah, this was before the economic tables turned, and Corpse got really rich. I guess they never really turned. It just went from runners being rich and Corpse being poor to just everybody being rich all the time. Is more what it
Right.
turned into.
Now, in some fairness, the only NBN identity at this point is the NBN making news with 2
Yes.
recurring credits for traces. So you can pump this up to a trace 4. But that's not exactly world breaking for what it is here. It's
Yeah. So with the making news ability, yeah, you can bump it up one time to a trace 4, right? The problem is that being such a weak trace, even if you get it to trace 4, you're still going to have a significant economic advantage over the runner at whatever point in the game that you use it to get it to stick. Especially
right.
because so many runners, they'll accidentally end up with a couple link, just
Right.
from
They're gonna have some amount of money, right? And here's the thing: you're gonna have to have basically the math changes from runner to runner, but you're gonna have 4 to 6 more credits than the runner in order to win this trace and be able to scorch them afterwards. And the runner has no incentive to allow this trace to go off basically because any money that they don't pour into it in, up to the point of beating you obviously they could just lose to a closed account immediately if you happen to not have scorch. So you're not really likely going to kill the runner with this. You could maybe bankrupt them and bankrupt yourself in the process.
yeah, you you have to be in a really advantageous position for this to be effective. In most situations, uh, outside of the most common situation is that you're not going to score this at all.
Yeah,
Even in the already very small number of situations where you've scored this successfully, you're then kind of cutting that. You're cutting that in half at that point of not only did I score this, but now I am in so much better an economic position than the runner that I can use this and double scorch,
totally.
which is it's just not going to happen.
No, not very likely. And you know what, on top of all that, this is competing for deck space with NBN's extremely good agendas.
Yeah.
Now, when at the time this was released, Project Beal wasn't out yet, but it would be soon.
Mhm.
So yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I kind of thought that Project Beal was the agenda in this, but then I forgot about restructured data pool.
E-
Shame on
e-
me.
even Lucas wasn't crazy enough to give them Project Beal in the first pack after giving them AstroScript pilot program.
Yeah, that's fair. At least he had a little bit of restraint. Um, but yeah, there's not much more to say about restructured data pool. It's a
Nope.
5/3, which already puts it at a disadvantage. Already, it puts it at a handicap. And then it's not even a 5/3 with like a really awesome effect, like GFI or Future Perfect or something.
Exactly.
And I never saw anybody run this card basically ever. I think maybe one of my roommates tried to make like a crazy meme deck or something once, but it sucked obviously.
Yeah, crazy meme decks don't need to apply. The crazy meme decks don't prove the validity of anything.
I mean, depending. There's been some crazy meme decks that I would say, lend some legitimate credence to to certain cards.
This is probably about the point where Steve is popping up like some text below us talking about how we need to talk about Aryabhata tech, but I'm not going to talk about it just to spite him.
Yeah. Aryabhata tech sucks, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Eh.
Anyway, do we want to talk about the flavor?
Sure. I'll go ahead and read it. Quote, "We're gonna need a bigger room," unquote. And
It's
it's got
servers.
some servers, some blue servers.
A bunch of servers.
Yeah. Woo,
Yeah,
servers.
I don't get it.
Listen, I'm a software developer in real life, and I don't get excited about servers.
Yeah. What's the function to flavor supposed to be? That like, oh, these are trapped servers or something?
I don't know that they've used data pooling to be able to improve their relational databases and find the runner. I don't know.
Yeah. Not very cool flavor. The art is just what I mean. It's just servers.
Yeah.
So,
I will say
really,
that looks like a satisfying floor to walk on. I bet it makes a nice clicking noise with your corporate shoes.
yeah, I guess that's fair. But honestly, a restructured data pool not doing anything to redeem itself in the art or flavor department either.
No.
So with that, I think it's time for judgment.
And I am going to judge it a 1.
I'm gonna give it a 0. Actually, I think this card is really bad and really sucks.
This could I don't think it's as bad and boring as some things that I have given a 0 to, but I'm comfortable with it being at a 1 instead of a 2. I'm good with that.
What have I given a 1 in the past? Or I guess a 0 rather. What do we have in 0? Honestly, taking a glance, I think that 0 fits restructured data pool just fine. I'm
All
gonna
right.
keep it a
Well,
0.
it gets a 1 out of 10. I think that's probably about where it goes.
About what it deserves. All right. Moving on.
All right, I'll get this one. Next up, we have TMI. TMI is an NBN ice. It has the barrier subtype. It is 3 credits to res and has a strength of 5. Ooh, look, good numbers. Its text reads, when you res TMI, trace 2. If unsuccessful, derez TMI. It has 1 end the run subroutine, and it is 1 credit. Okay, Aaron, this has some interesting numbers. We have talked about the importance of numbers in Netrunner at
There
length.
are there are a lot of them.
Yeah, this has several numbers on it. For example, 3 strength, 5 or 3 res, 5 strength. Those are good numbers. It ends the run. That seems all right. But it's got a trace, which we have opinions about, and it's a trace 2, which we have just established is not high, which, if unsuccessful, turns this ice back off, and you have to pay to res it again. Now, a thing that I also didn't learn until somewhat later on with this particular card is that you can res it again right away. You're still in the paidability window for this thing. So if you lose the trace and it dereses, you can just res it again. I think that's a pretty shaky reason to be using it, and I can't say I did that much, but yeah. So, how do we feel about this card's numbers?
Yeah, the numbers are good up until that trace 2 mumbo jumbo. And honestly, I don't even know that at a higher trace that the mumbo jumbo involved would really be that much better, because the problem is that one of the things that runners love is it's making the corp lose money. And it's not good when you have a corp card that lets the runner make you lose money. because more often than not, I find they will try to force you to lose money, even at expense of their own money, as much as they can.
So you're saying that as the corp, you don't want to lose money.
Yes, but more importantly, you don't want to give the runner additional agency to lose you money, which is what
Yeah,
TMI is.
yeah, totally. Uh, and when this is a piece of end the run ice, right? So, but it winds up being a taxing piece of ice, just not in the direction you kind of want it to.
Yeah, it's like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's taxing, but not in like a set way. It could be only a little bit taxing, or it could be a lot taxing.
Right.
The
No,
three to res is very misleading.
it is. You now I will say I did run this card for a while, like in tournament decks that I was playing, specifically in Wayland Scorched Earth of all things. But I
Okay,
think that
interesting.
was one of the places it kind of worked. Really, I had one influence that was floating around, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. And so I ran TMI because it was like, oh, Wayland, this is a wealthy faction, and so I can probably afford to beat the runner on the trace. The problem is if you pump the trace enough that the runner can't beat it, this is now expensive. Its numbers are now bad. And if you don't pump those numbers, the runner can just spend 2 credits to shut it off and make you spend 3 again. If it was 3 and 3, if it was just a trace 3, trace 4 would be better, obviously, but if it was just a trace 3, at least most runners, you'd be at an even money spend if they wanted to just shut it off.
Yeah. Um, First thing I'll address is the one spare influence floating around. I feel like I'd rather throw a roto turret in there rather than TMI, but that's just me. Um,
Probably would have been better.
but uh, yeah, it's like, and really what you said, is just kind of is in line with what I said, in that the 3 to res is very misleading, because in order to get it to where the runner can't overrule you, and they're almost always going to try, because
Hmm.
when they see that opportunity to kind of give you the finger and make you lose money and not end their run, um they're gonna try to push that, unless they're just absolutely flat broke, which in that case, why are they making a run?
Fair
um
question.
but Now, as we discussed, the core NBN identity making news, does get the additional 2 credits for the trace. So out of NBN, I could see this being not terrible. You get your 2 free credits, which um, you can use to bump it to a trace 4. Which at that point, if the runner, you can almost always just assume the runner has 1 link, right? That's a
Sure.
pretty safe assumption. Oftentimes they'll have more, but occasionally they might have 0. But if you just assume that at any given point the runner's got 1 link, especially in the early game, um, them having to spend 3 in order to keep you from resing it for 3 is not like the worst thing ever, but it also does still suck.
It does. So yeah,
Yeah, and I guess that just that's kind of that's kind of the whole statement, right? TMI, yeah, it does still just kind of suck after
yeah.
everything's all said and done.
This also feels like they were trying to balance its trace around NBN's recurring trace credits, but the problem is they have so many cards they were trying to do that with that NBN just wound up with a lot of shitty traces, and you can't use those recurring credits on all of them.
Yeah, because you only get them every turn, right? So if you've got 75 fucking trace ones, it's like there's just those 2 credits aren't gonna are getting stretched pretty thin per turn.
Yeah, for sure. Now, all right. Once again, this is probably the point where Steve is yelping from the background about Arya Botatek. Um, so I'm just going to talk about Arya Botatek real quick. Arya Botatek is a card that came out much later in
It
the
was like
game's life
I was
cycle.
gonna say it was like right before.
Yeah, it was like second to last cycle or something.
Yeah,
It might have even, I think it was second to last cycle, where
very late.
whenever there's a successful trace, the corporation gains a credit and the runner loses a credit. which is a
Is
good
that-
effect.
Yeah.
And the chirping voice would say, but you can trigger endless traces with this. You can just, as long as they keep until they let you win the trace, you can just keep rezzing this, or until you're broke, which was usually the case with Steve Zarya bought a deck. Anyway, but I don't think even he ran this card in that deck. There were better traces.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking up Arya Biotech. Man, I didn't even realize that Arya Biotech's not even an identity. That's just like an asset. This
Yeah, it's
sucks.
just an asset.
Steve, you suck. Why are you what?
Yeah, I mean, he said it, not me.
Yeah. The hell is this?
I will say, if there are 3 of them up, boy, is it unpleasant.
Sure, yeah, but yeah, damn. I feel you run into Wizard, you're just fucking cooked.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, um, yeah. So TMI sucks. Just to kind of put it all in a nutshell, it sucks because it's 3 to res for 5 strength, but it's not actually 3 to res for 5 strength. It's probably like 5, 6, 7, 8 to res for 5 strength, and that sucks.
Yeah, yeah, not good.
I'm gonna read the flavor text on it though.
Go for it.
And it says a collection of cast-off cyber junk, but it doesn't stay junk for long. What the hell is cyber junk? What are we supposed to assume that cyber junk is?
This is cyber junk. That's what it is. TMI itself is cyber junk. Like, they're trying to be memes with this, but this card is junk.
Yeah, this card is literally cyber junk. But like in universe, what is cyber junk? Are we supposed to believe that when you delete something, it goes to just like a virtual dump somewhere?
No, it's TikTok. It's the contents of TikTok.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But anyway, it says that it doesn't stay junk for long, but TMI stayed junk forever, so
It did.
I think they lied. And then yeah, the art is just like some abstract nonsense.
It looks like what I see when I get a visual migraine.
Okay, I have no experience with those, and so that's a little eye opening for me. Yeah, what do we rate it? What are we rating this thing?
I'm on the border of a 1 or a 2, but I'm gonna give it a 1.
I'm gonna go 2 zeros in a row.
Wow, I really don't think it deserves a 0, but
I mean, does it not? This card really sucks really bad.
it does suck. But they did something at least marginally interesting with it, and it's a piece of ice, which makes it better than other cards.
So true. It does have the ice buff. But well, here's the problem though, is I feel like most cards that I've rated 0 and we've rated run or 1, you could argue tried to do something interesting.
Some of the time, but interesting is better than boring.
That is true. I don't know, man. I just don't like this. This just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I think the problem is that I like my ice to get rezzed, and this I feel like this I feel like spits in the face of ice.
Okay, Mister, I want my ice to get rezzed. All right, elitist here.
I feel like this disrespects the very idea of ice. So I'm sticking with the 0. I think this card stinks.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Moving on. We next have Project Atlas, which is a Wayland agenda with the research subtype. It has a 3 advancement cost to score for 2 points, and it reads: when you score Project Atlas, place 1 agenda counter on it for each advancement token on it over 3. Hosted agenda counter, spend a hosted agenda counter for the uninitiated. Search R&D for 1 card, reveal it, and add it to HQ. Shuffle R&D. Isaac.
Yep.
Is this one of the first 3 2s that we get with an ability outside of Astroscript, that can actually be useful sometimes and kind of matters?
Yeah, kind of. Like, all right, this Wayland likes to kill people, right? To kill people at this stage in the game, you need a way to tag them, and you need some scorched earth as Wayland. And this can get you the missing pieces. That seems good. You're sitting on only 1 scorch, or your sea source is hiding somewhere at the bottom of your deck. Oh, well, we're just gonna fish it out, and then we're gonna kill you. And
Yeah.
what's great is that as a paid ability, I don't even have to pull it out of my deck until I'm ready to do that. Until then, it's just being a not agenda card in my R&D for the runner to access and do nothing with.
Yeah.
This is
Um,
great.
yeah, this is very much like looking at it, and having talked about restructured data pool, just a couple cards ago. This is very much the opposite of restructured data pool. This is like the anti-restructured data pool.
Right. Whoever was like releasing this pack was like, all right, Wayland is cool and I like them and we're going to give them cool things and NBN can have this poop.
Yep. And they were like, Jinteki's all right. I will at least give him a 3/2.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Project Atlas is the anti restructured data pool.
It's the rare agenda that you can overscore that you would actually overscore.
Yeah. You overscoring this is very helpful. And it is not at all outside of the realm of possibility, especially outside of Wayland.
Totally.
Because Wayland has a lot of money. They have some big ice, and influence is a thing. So there's plenty of room for if they need to spend a couple influence on a toll booth or whatever. That can be done. Granted, things get a little tight with C source and snares and stuff, but Wayland has no problem getting to big ice and being able to score it, or being able to res it, that is.
Absolutely.
They got archers, which, big deal right there. I mean, you do gotta, forfeit some junk in order to, res archer, but at the end of the day, if you're playing Wayland, you're just trying to kill people, right? So you can give up a point for,
Yeah, we're good with that.
Yeah, to better, advance the means of being able to kill somebody.
Right, and most commonly, I would only overscore this by 1. Usually, that was enough.
Yeah, I don't know that I mean, unless you were just really kicking the runner while they were down, I don't know that I really ever saw anybody tried to overscore this by more than the 1.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue that what you could do is if you install advance, and then, the next turn, if you just triple advance it, that's, then you, or no, I guess for each advancement, is this, I always forget that Project Beal is the one where it's every other one, so then I want to apply that to all the overscore agendas.
Yeah, no, but this is for each and every one.
Yeah, so if you just do the classic, install advance, and then next turn triple advance it, it kind of, no reason not to do that if you, really want to just have access to 2 of the cards that you need whenever you need them.
Sure, and this has other utility beyond that. I have, in the past, used this to, 1, combat indexing runs, where somebody runs R&D, rearranges everything, they run again right before access, I use the hosted counter, pull something out of the deck, and shuffles, and all of that stacking they just did goes to waste. Or if I know that there's only like 2 agendas left in the deck because my hand's flooded and life is suffering, or it's close to the end of the game, I can go and pull an agenda out of it and make it less likely that they're going to get an access. This has utility.
Yeah, because here's the thing: is it's mainly used for giving yourself a shortcut to scorched earth times.
Yeah.
But the reason why it's so good is because its usefulness doesn't start and end there.
Yeah.
Because being able to get one of your cards whenever you need it is just good all the time.
Sure. If you were doing some weird shenanigans with like a Wayland Fast Advance or other combo deck, this can pull pieces of that stuff out too.
Yeah, or even still in a Scorched deck. I mean, maybe you have the 2 Scorched, but you're broke. You could use this to fetch yourself a hedge fund or something.
Absolutely.
Like it enables you to just get what you need when you need it.
Yep. If you're getting siphoned to death, you can pull a Chrysium Grid out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then all of that on top of it, it's a 3/2.
Pretty good.
Which it's not a 5/3. It's not some. It's not even a 4/2. Nothing weird. It's just having this in your deck doesn't feel bad, because even if you do just need to score it for points, not hard to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Project Atlas is It's just it's a model agenda of a agenda that has an effect, isn't hamstrung by it being too bloated or difficult to score, and its effect is always good and is not difficult to activate.
Yep, it's a good card.
Yep. I feel like we've been slacking a little bit. The last two, I just now realized. I feel like I do this every episode now. Is I always forget that we don't mention what we could change about those poopy cards to make them not so poopy.
Oh well, the last two are hopeless anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, the last two suck. Screw those cards. But Project Atlas, I'm asking, is it too strong, or do you think it's right where it needs to be? Is there anything that you think would need to be changed about Project Atlas?
I don't know. I don't know. On the one hand, it was so good that it was in almost all Wayland decks forever.
Mhm.
And so that's like maybe a sign of it being a little overtuned. Maybe if it was a 4/2, but it got one counter by default, that way it's just not a 3/2 on top
Yeah.
of being really good. Maybe that.
That's what I was thinking. Is if there was any change, I was going to suggest that exact thing, that you just change it to a 4/2, but it's just limited to only ever get the one counter that you can spend.
Yeah, I mean, even if you could overscore it, but you just have to get to 4, I think that would probably be a reasonable balancing point.
Yeah, but I don't think it's too strong. I don't think I ever saw this and thought,
No, it
man,
was
that's
never like
broken."
this is yeah, it never felt broken. It was just really good.
Yeah. I think if there was anything that was broken about how it got used, you could pin that blame on other things.
Yeah, meta defining card.
Yeah, really good, solid all the time. Really helped enable kill combos.
Always very happy when you stole it as the runner because not only is it points, the corp isn't scoring it.
Yes. And then if the corp ever did get this and overscore it, that counter just sitting on the table just was just always a looming sense of doom for the whole rest of the game.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the art?
I like it. So, looking at it, we've got the corporate boardroom that's examining the schematics of some device, and you know what it looks like? It looks like Yuri's submarines from Red Alert 2's Yuri's Revenge. That's what it looks like to me. So that's
Nice.
my headcanon what it is, and it like shoots cruise missiles at people.
Nice, and those cruise missiles have little hands on them that grab stuff, and so they shoot the missile, and then it grabs your scorched earth, and then it flies it back to you.
Absolutely.
It flies through the air, it grabs the explosives, and then it flies over to the city block, and then it places them all in there.
Yep. Yep. I like it. I like
Yeah,
it. It's sufficiently Wayland.
I like it too. I like the color palette. Of I don't know, it just has a nice kind of just sinister vibe to it, where nothing sinister is really happening or depicted, but it just something about the
How much money are we going to make off of all those dead children that we're gonna bomb type of vibe?
Yeah, just all these suits illuminated by like the gray blue light. Very cool.
So what do we rate it?
I'm gonna go 3 zeros in a row here now. I think it's good. I think it deserves a 4 from me.
I agree. It's not like the world's most exciting card, but it's good. It fits its faction really well, and I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. Inoffensive for the most part. Iconic though. When you see Project Atlas, you're like, "Ooh, yeah, that's a good one."
It's a well-designed card. It's like it's perfectly balanced, as they might say.
As a purple somebody might claim.
Right. Even though like whatever little dual-bladed dagger thing that he was holding up at the time was stupid.
That was stupid, and it was stupid that like she went to go like the blade on that was so small, and she like went to stab herself with it. I'm like, that even like do anything?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good scene ruined by a crappy weapon.
Yeah. Anyway, that was that was a Marvel talk for this channel.
That's enough Marvel for the rest of the entire history of this podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's the one thing. All right, let's move on.
All right. Next up, we have Caduceus. Caduceus is a Wayland Ice. It has the subtypes Sentry and Tracer. It is 3 credits to res and 3 strength. It has 2 subroutines, the first of which is Trace 3. If successful, the corp gains 3 credits. And then Trace 2, if successful, end the run. And it is 2 influence. Alright, Aaron. So traces suck, blah 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 blah. I kind of like these traces.
Yeah, Caduceus was always one that for a while, if I was making a Wayland deck, found its way in there. This was not a hard one to slot into a Wayland deck by any means. But mostly because it's all about the numbers yet again. Those damn numbers.
Those numbers.
Because 3 to res, as we discussed with TMI, is good. 3 strength, not great, but decent. But we have 2 trace subroutines. And really, it's all brought together by that first one, where it's trace 3. If successful, the corp gains 3 credits.
That really is the one that makes this card.
Yes, because the problem with that trace is that, as the corp, you're just going to leave it alone. Unless like you could maybe, if you're running this out of NBN or something, which I don't think is the craziest thing ever, but, I don't think you necessarily would. But if you wanted to and you were running this out of Making News, you could pump that for free with that. But in most cases, you're just going to leave that trace alone. You're just going to let it be a trace 3.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, really it just puts the runner between a rock and a hard place. They either let the trace fire and you as the corp get free money. And it's not a little free money. It is 3 free credits, which if this fires once, Caduceus has paid for itself.
Great.
Which is awesome. Or if they do pay to stop that, then, assuming that the runner has, let's say, 1 link, like I said, pretty, I think, fair assumption in most cases, they pay 2 credits just to stop you from gaining 3.
Yeah.
Which is great because in most cases, 2 credits would be the tax that you would get out of 2 subroutines to begin with.
Right. It's a big difference between the runner paying to keep you from getting money and the runner paying to make you lose more money.
Exactly. And so either way, as the corp, you win. And then the trace 2, if successful, end the run. That's kind of a whatever one. You're not. Most of the time, you're probably not going to pump it. In some cases, I remember instances where they let the 3 fire and then the next trace fired, and because they let the 3 fire, I pumped the next trace because hey, I got
right. Now it's out of their range.
Yeah, I got 3 extra credits now. But in most cases, they'll probably spend 1 and break it, which again is fine though, because the more often, or the more common scenario that eventually you're going to run into is they're going to have a sentry breaker and they're going to break Caduceus for 2 credits.
Yep.
However, up until they get that mimic or whatever else it is on the table, when this is allowed to fire, it does have some great trace subroutines that put the runner in a pretty bad spot, and really you win pretty much no matter what.
Yeah. It's a win-win card. It's good.
Yeah. And then even when they can break it, if they get a mimic on the table, a 2 credit per tax, for the 3 credit investment, I think is fine.
Not bad. Not bad for paying 3.
Yeah, in most instances, that's kind of what you can hope to get out of an ice is, especially one that you paid 3 credits for. You pay 3 for Wall of Static, and Corroder breaks it for the same 2. Yeah. I think 3 is about the average. If you spend 3 to res an ice, a 2 credit tax is about what you can expect out of it.
It's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole hell of a lot else to say about Caduceus. I saw it a lot at Wayland for a while. This is a very common ice that I saw. This might have been a Colorado thing, but for some reason I feel like I saw a lot of people influence this too.
Yeah, very good in NBN.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't just see this out of Wayland.
Especially, at this point in the life cycle, NBN is just making news. This has obvious synergy.
Yeah. Um, Obviously those traces quite a bit quite a bit juicier with if you got 2 free credits to work with.
Yep, good stuff.
How about the flavor text? Who read the last flavor text? Was it me?
I don't remember, but I'll read this one. A symbol of commerce, but beware its bite.
Cyber snake, cyber snake, cyber snake.
Cyber snake. Yeah.
Um, it's
And
cool.
and
That's
the
the art.
art. Yeah. The cyber snakes look really good, actually.
Yeah. Um, Very striking. Uh, I think this is one of those where, uh, as I played the game, this was one where it took me a while to actually really look at the card. Um, and I don't think that for a while I even realized that they were cyber snakes, like on the physical card. Um, just because it's like, oh, okay, weird cyber energy thing, and then just never bothered to look closer.
Yeah,
But they be cyber snakes, and they
they
are
do.
cool.
I like good particle effect, nice, stylish. Color theme goes well with Wayland. You got like the little bits of forest green at the edges and stuff.
Yeah. Now this begs the question, function to flavor. Why do I beware the snake's bite, and why does that give the court money?
Listen, the snakes, they're money snakes.
They bite your pocketbook.
They do.
But yeah, I feel like with the flavor text, you would almost more expect this to do like net damage or something.
Kinda.
So that feels like a little bit of a mismatch, but that's really we're just kind of at the nitpick portion of the card at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I like it.
yeah, me too. I think Caduceus deserves a 4.
I would agree. It was a good card. It fell off later in the game, but most of the stuff from this time did.
Yeah, I'd argue that it's impossible to create a card game where you're constantly releasing new cards and not have there be you know release creep in one way or another, be it
Up
you
or
know
down.
up or down. Yeah. So, I
Yeah,
can forgive Caduceus on that one.
sure. All right,
All
what do we
right.
got next?
Last and very potentially least, we have Draco, which is a neutral piece of ice. It costs 1 credit to res and comes in at a whopping 0 strength. It has the subtypes Sentry and Tracer. And it reads, when you res Draco, you may pay X credits to place X power counters on it. Draco has +1 strength for each power counter on it. And it has a single subroutine, which is a trace 2 that says, if successful, give the runner 1 tag and end the run. And it is 0 influence, which not really matter now, but eventually, the 0 influence out of neutral does become a distinction.
Yeah,
Anyway, Isaac,
that's me.
what is the deal with this card? This card is absolutely unbelievably awful.
I don't think it's as bad as some cards. And I'll tell you why. I, for a time, would run 1 copy of this card and put
Man.
it over HQ as emergency siphon protection.
Okay,
And that
so
was about it.
I see I guess I see the meme there. Um, I'll bankrupt myself so that you can't do it, and then get, double the money or whatever. But that becomes a weird interaction in of itself, right? Because when does it, at what point does it become worth, the runner not getting 10 credits?
Right.
What? So I guess I'll pose that question to you since you're the one who did it. What was the cutoff point?
I mean, it was basically I would commonly drop myself down to 2 credits with this. If I still had 3 credits left when they got into HQ, they much of the time would just take the money because they want me to be broke.
Yeah.
But if I was at 2 credits, do they really want 2 tags for only 4 credits? They're only taking me down 2. It becomes a much less good prospect for them. And it's much easier as the corp to recover from 2 credits than it is from 0. But that
Fair.
doesn't make this a good piece of ice. It was just specifically because Siphon was such a problem early on.
Sure. I was more curious, like when is it not worth it, right? Like
Yeah.
what, like if you have 20 credits, it's
I
like
mean,
okay,
if I've got a beanstalk and a hedge fund in my hand, I probably don't care enough.
yeah. Um,
Or, if the runner already has piles of money and I have piles of money and it's not going to make that big of a difference. If I don't want to bump 12 credits into this thing, but I bump 6.
okay, fair. Kind of what I was wondering. It's right. Like, do you bring yourself down from 10 to 0 just to make sure that the runner can't get 5? You know.
I think I did once, but I was in a good board state at the time, and the runner was trying to recover and had already invested in getting that far into HQ and everything. So it was a big loss for them. And I was like, I've
Okay.
got res dice everywhere. So circumstantially, I would pay 10,
Okay.
but
Okay.
not often.
All right. Well, you know what? Interesting little use case there. Anyway, now let's talk about in every single other circumstance where this shit blows, dude.
Yeah, once again, Trace 2. Trace 2 sucks.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Is it's like it just doesn't matter like what strength you get this to because
Trace
because
2.
Trace 2 is so terrible.
Right. Maybe if it was like if it got extra strength on the trace for that money you poured into it as well, then maybe this is a good card.
Yeah, which I think they tried to inverse Draco at one point, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
crazy, I
maybe.
think they
Yeah.
had one where when you res it, you can pay X, and then it gets X trace strength or whatever. But
Yeah,
then
and
at
then it
that point,
gets
I think it had.
parasited.
Well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say then I think that had the reverse problem where its strength is only this, so you either parasite it or if you just have a breaker that gets that, then the trace X doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's the main problem is that like at what point, like how much money do you put into this thing? Like, do you make it 5 strength? At that, like, who cares if it's 5 strength? Like,
Right.
do you,
It's like you've created this enormous dragon, and the dragon, all he does is like eat potato chips and growl a little bit at people.
yeah, not threatening, possibly big, but
Right.
yeah, I'm struggling to think of circumstances other than your interesting little kind of fringe meme strategy when Siphon was running amok.
I think I know why. I think you're struggling because there aren't really other uses for it
It's
beyond
yeah,
that.
it's just I'm just trying to think like at a just very base like like developing this card like what's the idea like
Right. I mean, ice with variable strength is interesting because you'd get points in the metagame where breakers of particular strengths and that ran particular ways were very common.
yeah
Things like Faust, where it's got 2 strength and you pump it with 2 for every card, so you can like do some math on how to manipulate that. Or fixed breakers are really common, and so you can manipulate strength based on that. But the 2 trace is a problem, and the cards that did a better job at stuff like that were like IQ, which came out much later,
yeah
but that you can kind of game the system with it a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna res this IQ and I've only got 2 cards in hand, and then I'm gonna draw up to 5, and suddenly I've got a 5 strength code gate.
yeah. It's just it's so odd like how just kind of obviously bad it is.
Yeah.
And then that begs the question, okay, well, how can you make it good, right? Because the problem is you can't just have it be a flat subroutine because then if somebody drops 10 credits on this thing, it's like fucking insane.
Sure.
Um, but
Trace X, where X is the power counters. I think that makes this a reasonable card.
okay. You don't think even that's like a little too crazy that if you get like you have a super rich corp that like I said drops 10 on this and it's like a trace 10, strength 10.
I mean, it's a strength 10 with 1 subroutine, and David exists, and there's parasites and things, or you can use a knife on it. Like, there are solutions. Like, I think
Yeah,
that makes it good, but I don't think that makes it idiotic.
yeah. And then you still have to spend a bunch of money in order for for it to do that. and then the runner can still break it even if they don't have a
Sure.
breaker, and
You
just
could
have money.
Yeah, you could do something as well on it, give it a downside, like every time the runner breaks all the subroutines on Draco, remove one power counter.
Yeah,
I think that would be cool. In fact, I like that. Do that. That's what this should do.
yeah. It gets, X price strength and regular strength, and then it loses counters when they bust through it. But as is, this
Yeah,
card is really not good.
yeah. Did you ever
Uh,
actually see this? Did you ever play against it?
hell no, I never saw this a day in my life. I don't think I ever even tried to put it in anything because, like, you read it. That's the problem, is you read it.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool ass art though.
Yeah, I do like the art, but dragons are cool and stuff.
Yeah, you want to read the flavor text?
Sure. Victus dracones numquam deride.
Nice. How about the function to flavor text?
I mean, it's a dragon. You feed it and it gets bigger, I guess.
Yeah, I was just curious how the flavor text relates to like the ability.
Yeah, never mock defeated dragons, I think. Eh, don't make fun of dragons because then they'll like do nothing to you basically.
Because then they'll they'll have a really shitty trace that you can break through.
Yeah, definitely don't mock Draco, guys.
Yeah, do not do it. Worst mistake of my life. With the little umlaut over whatever it is, or it's not an umlaut, but whatever that little is it. So do you pronounce it Draco, or is it supposed to be something else because of that little symbol?
I don't recall. I think I looked it up at one point, but I don't remember. I don't do enough show research to have checked in advance.
Yeah, for sure. I would never dream of it, but just kind of looking at it, right? Because without the little symbol, Draco is how I would figure you're supposed to pronounce it, right? But like, isn't that little symbol supposed to change how the O is pronounced? So is it supposed to be like Draka or something?
I hope not. That sounds stupid.
I agree.
Maybe Dracu.
Yeah, that sounds even stupider.
Hey, you're not supposed to mock him. Don't mock him.
No, the race. Anyway, what do we rate Drakao?
Drakao is getting a 1 from me.
I'm gonna give the unprecedented 000 episode. I mean, I think it deserves a 0. This card fucking stinks.
Maybe just because I fondly remember it from some games where it was useful, gives it a 1 from me.
Honestly,
And I
like,
did put it in decks. It's not like this was just binder food. It was only mostly binder food.
yeah, like, that is a very wily, sort of use. And if I saw it, I'd be like, oh shit, oh damn, this boy got the Draco. Like that would be an absolutely bonkers thing to see.
And it did make some people smile when I rezzed it. So it's like it brought joy to someone's life at some point.
Yeah, fair. But I can't in good conscience also give it a 1 and put it in the next tier up.
Fair enough.
I think it belongs in meat space garbage.
Sorry, Draco. Even though you exist only in net space, you are meat space garbage.
Yep, you are printed out of net space and then thrown in the garbage. You're not even cyber junk.
Yeah.
Which kind of interesting though that that TMI, which is cyber junk, ended up being meat space garbage.
Oh. There's a lot of cyber stuff that was meat space garbage apparently.
Yeah.
What is it with them printing garbage dragons? This worm.
Yeah, what are they? Did we get any more dragons, or did they learn their lesson after Worm and Draco?
Well, like, listen, we're just no good at dragons, guys. Sorry. If you want that, go play the Lord of the Rings card game.
All right. Well, anyway, suppose that's about time to wrap it up. Because that is the end of what is this? What lies ahead? Is that the first one?
Yeah, it's now What Lies Behind.
Yep, it is now What Lies Behind, and which I think was mostly bad cards.
It was not great, not the best pack in the world. There were some bangers in it, but
yeah,
like this has Imp and it has your boy ZU13.
Yeah, true. It's got some decent cards.
And then it has this.
Yeah, and then it has this. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody for listening, and appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please tune in next time, probably in June when we when Steve edits another episode and then we record another episode.
Right, there's like a 3-week gap between all of these things.
Yeah,
so
between each of these actions, because Steve will need to edit this episode, then we'll need to record the next episode, and then Steve will need to edit that next episode. So you got about 3 to 4 weeks in between each of those actions. So
Right, this is now the point where if we were a serious podcast, we'd consider just paying someone on Fiverr to edit this, but then I wouldn't get to listen to Steve complain about editing it.
yeah, no, that's honestly that's become integral part of the viewing experience, I believe, at this point. So
Definitely.
all right, well, later, haters. Bye.